What do you do when an ant colony you've been keeping for months and caring for diligently stops appearing at the surface? Not a sign of their whereabouts above ground. Do you continue to wait and hope they're just growing in numbers in some sealed-off subterranean chamber? Or do you dig them out, ignoring all risks of injuring their queen, if alive? As each week has come and gone, I've been keeping a watchful eye on the Grove, this beautiful and lush ant terrarium, for any signs of the young Carpenter ant colony we moved in here over 6 months ago. And although I've offered them food and water every day and took good care of the kingdom's vegetation, that very concerning question still burns within me. Are the ants even alive? I need even the slightest evidence. A garbage pile, honey decreasing in amount, nest holes, anything. Week after week, for half a year now, I told myself not to worry. But keeping the ants in this terrarium full of soil has its drawbacks, as the dis-ease of not knowing how the ants were doing ate away at my conscience. I hoped I hadn't killed the ants somehow. This week, I couldn't bear it any longer. I had to take matters into my own hands and see for myself if the ant colony was still alive down there. And if they were, they had to be moved to a new kingdom, which would allow us to see and care for them much more effectively. But AC family, what I ultimately discovered in this episode left me speechless. Twice. Welcome to the AntsCanada Ant Channel. Please subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon. Welcome to the AC family. Enjoy. Alright, AC family, it was time to get some answers. I don't know if you guys even remember, but there was just one single episode on these elusive carpenter ants, and that was the last we ever heard or seen them. On the day they settled in, I was over the moon thrilled that these carpenter ants had joined our roster of ant kingdoms. Because, well, carpenter ants are some of the most widespread genera of ants in the world, found in most countries in most continents. It was a type of ant we, the AC family, were all familiar with and could relate to, despite our respective geography in the world. But surprisingly, as much as I desired to feature them in a week's video, they were nowhere to be seen. But digging into a ghost terrarium brings back some horrible memories of searching for disappeared colonies in the past, which didn't end happy. So going into the Grove this week was extremely scary for me. I was afraid of what I would find out, but we had to find out. Because if they were still alive, I wanted to transfer them into something much more visually friendly. These ants probably shouldn't have been introduced into a terrarium at this premature stage, because we can see nothing that happens with them underground, and we're forced to simply wait for them to grow big enough to see some action above ground. In retrospect, an ant-style Big Brother loft would have been much better, so we could at least keep track of their progress. In this video, you will see the construction of such a setup, from the various materials needed to my personal process when creating a basic but beautiful formicarium ant build. I had a hunch they were okay, and apparently, so did most of you. But man, guys, what actually happened this week completely shocked me. Trust me when I say this, keep on watching until the end. So I've been pretty diligent at keeping the Grove's plants trimmed and pretty. In fact, I found micro-gardening in the Grove, snipping away at and shaping overgrown vegetation, very relaxing. This particular overgrown entanglement just appeared one day. It's one of the plants I didn't plant into the original terrascape of the Grove. And quite frankly, I wasn't a fan of its impenetrability and profuse pod extensions, which offered any ant a possible bridge of escape out of the terrarium, so I was happy cutting it away. This bushy shrub, on the other hand, though also a plant that appeared unexpectedly, is quite attractive. It just needed to be cut back a bit. I snipped away and cleared the space, so the energy felt good. Guys, take a look at how gorgeous this plant is. With its diminutive leaves and tiny white bulbous blossoms, it was a friendly and cheerful bush I love to see flourish in the Grove. In fact, a lot of these plants just sprung out of nowhere. These tiny and cute sprouts and mosses. But that's about all there was new to the grove. A whole lot of lush plant life, but no ants. Peeking into this hollow bamboo, which was originally placed here to offer the carpenter ants a spacious and dark place to reside, was as usual, empty. The ants never actually used it as a nest. However, the last place the ants were seen nesting was here, beneath this great rock at the center of the territories. I've made sure the area around this rock always had some honey for the ants if ever they emerged to forage, as well as pre-crushed roaches. There have been no evidence of the ants actually coming out to eat these offerings, however. All I see are drowned snails who came too close. So before resorting to overturning this rock to hopefully find the ants, I decided to do what had worked the first time at causing the ants to surface and make themselves seen. I wanted to try flooding them out. I poured some water all around the great rock. Pouring water like this usually is enough to surface a captive ant colony. I looked around. I see a few worms. Gross. Nothing. Not an ant in sight. Alrighty, sea family. Let's do this. I had no choice but to go in. I removed the telangia sitting atop the great rock and lifted the rock out of its soil bed. I searched the exposed earth for signs of the ant colony, and this is what I saw. Have a look. No ants. No colony. Not even so much as a tunnel. Nothing. I'm sorry to say this, AC family, but I think our carpenter ants have died. Man, I was sure the ants were okay. So sad. I guess this is all part of ant keeping, right? They're still wild animals, and sometimes the ants make it in a captive environment. But sadly, as in this case, sometimes they don't. It was time to declare the grove shut down. But then, as is common in the Antiverse, when one colony leaves us, another enters. In pure serendipity, an ant friend of mine contacted me to offer a carpenter ant colony. I wasn't sure if it was the same species as our deceased colony, but apparently it was a large one with multiple queens. Oh man, of course, I took up the offer, but this time I had new plans to house this multi-queen carpenter ant colony. It was time to take a step away from these intricate terrariums and return to the basics. AC family, behold my new arsenal of ant housing materials. I can't wait to show you what I have here. So first, for the main nest, I plan on using an AC hybrid nest, Campanara's version, specially designed with carpenter ants in mind. I'll show you more about this formicarium in a bit. Moving on, for their Outworld space, an AC Outworld. If you're new to ant keeping, this space will act as the ant colony's outer world, where the ants forage for food, establish garbage sites, and other stuff. And I've got some super cool plans for designing this space too, coming up. Next, to decorate, I'll be needing the help of an AC biome kit desert. It's complete with artificial plants, some mosses and lichens, sticks, and a bag of sand to create an interesting arid landscape within the ants' outworld. I'll be showing you how I design my outworlds in a few moments. Other materials I'll be needing are some regular cotton, some baby powder, and a small dish. I like to order the regular version for my ants, not the perfume kind, as I am super chemical phobic with my ants. I also will be using these items: a decorative rock, some soil, and some dried leaves. These are talisai leaves, which I have on hand for use in my aquariums. And they're great because they come in a bag from an aquarium store, and I don't have to worry too much about stowaway parasites. Alright, so to start, let's open this AC hybrid nest, shall we? Opening the box. So here we have the hybrid nest, which is 8 inches by 8 inches in living area. Now if you look at the chambers, you'll see the design of this hybrid nest is composed of semi-cylindrical linear chambers, a design inspired by wild carpenter ant nests, if you've ever seen one. The floor of the hybrid nest is granular, except for this lower area here, which actually have microholes in the flooring. These microholes are how humidity enters the nest. Let me show you real quick how it works. By the way guys, please excuse my scratched up hands. I'm currently caring for a parrot with some razor sharp nails. I'm only noticing how bad it is now in 4K Ultra HD. Alright, so the idea is we place water into this area and it travels into this lower reservoir and makes its way up into the formicarium. But we first need to add some kind of hydration medium. Me? I prefer to use cotton, but you can choose to use whatever hydration medium you want. You can use soil, perlite, sand, white tongue, a sponge. Alright, now the hydration medium is wet and activated. The next step is to remove the glass for a bit. I just flip it over like so. And at the back, you can see the micro holes through which moisture enters. So to further propagate this moisture coming through the holes, one thing I like to add, but it's completely optional, is soil. This will help better distribute the moisture throughout the nest and give the ants a bit of digging medium to better customize their living space. Just a note that even if you don't have Camponotus ants, the Camponotus version, or any of the versions for that matter, can work for any kind of ant you may have. The only thing to keep in mind is every hybrid nest version offers a different percentage of nest hydration to reflect the general nest preferences of the genus version of hybrid nest. For instance, the Camponotus hybrid nest creates a nest of about 20 to 40% humidity because Carpenter ants tend to like this amount of moisture. But by adding soil and increasing waterings, we can make the nest more humid than 20 to 40%. If a drier nest is needed, just decrease waterings and keep digging medium to a low. Alright, and now to replace the glass, and voila! Now I can choose to glue the glass onto the hybrid nest along the edges, but in this case, the ants are large, so I'll leave it unglued, so I can clean it much more easily in the future. Alright, next, with the hybrid nest kit comes several parts, including this AC test tube and this AC test tube adapter. This test tube will become the ants' clean water supply, so I'm gonna create a test tube setup and create a water reservoir using a cotton ball. Then with this test tube adapter fastened onto the end of the test tube, the entire clean water supply can now be attached to the ant nest for the ants to drink anytime they need a fresh drink of water. The kit also comes with this piece, an AC plug, which will plug up this hole after the ants have moved in. But before that, now it's time for the Outworld. Oh, this is gonna be fun. I love unboxing these. Alright, so here's a bag of AC plugs which we won't need because the exits of this Outworld will be used as entrance points. And here is our AC Outworld. A 1 foot long, 6 inch deep, and 6.5 inch tall ventilated space, which is a good amount of ant real estate for our Carpenter ant colony. It's got 360-degree clarity for optimal viewing, no sharp corners for the ants to cling on, and at the back are 2 entrance ports. Now here is my favorite part. Time to landscape this Outworld. First, I dump in some soil. Not a lot of soil, because we don't want the ants to dig in this Outworld area. Otherwise, they will move out of the nest and into the Outworld where we can't see them. Then with the help of this AC Biome Kit Desert, I can go ahead and create an arid desert style habitat for our Carpenter ants. So many of you have been requesting I create an arid desert style ant habitat, so I wanted to finally do it for you now. Even if the Carpenter ants we will be housing are a tropical species, we can design our Outworld any way we want. It's just decorating, and won't affect the ants' health in any way, regardless of whether we choose desert style, rainforest style, or field and forest style. Designing Outworlds is one of my favorite parts of setting up an ant farm. It's at this stage that you can stretch those creative juices. Sky's the limit. And with this bag of sand sprinkled on top of our soil, we give the entire Outworld its signature desert look. Here's a decorative stone that I bought from an aquarium store, and I will place it at the back and in the middle of the Outworld. I like to keep decor highest at the back, then lower on the sides, and lowest at the front. It's this basic armchair design that I find never fails to look good. Now, the Outworld is almost complete. One final step is I need to add my ant barrier to keep the ants from climbing out when I open the top to place in food or clean up. I like to use baby powder. You can also mix it with rubbing alcohol, and the dried mixture will be slippery for the ants. These days, I just use dry baby powder. Some people like to use Vaseline, and others Fluon. Securing the top on like so, and voila! Our Outworld is complete and ready for use. Now check out how this top works. You can either open this food chute here and drop food in, or you can remove this top plate and work inside the Outworld. I recommend you keep the plate on when you're not working in the Outworld, just to keep creatures like pets, predators like house geckos and Minica the Woods, or other humans like kids perhaps, from getting into your Outworld. And now for tubing. Special AC tubing comes with the Outworld kit, and you can simply cut it in half and use the pieces to connect the hybrid nest securely, no glue needed, to the Outworld's entrance points at both sides. And oh yeah, before I forget, using a bit of dried leaves for decor. Not too much. In terrascaping, sometimes the saying, less is more, definitely applies. And so AC family, behold, our brand new, simple yet beautiful ant setup. What do you think of the Outworld, huh? Didn't I tell you the armchair formula works? What should we call this new territory? Let me know in the comments. And now finally, the time has come to meet our new Carpenter ant colony, who were eager to move into their new home. Looking into the container, I could see big piles of brood, lots of workers of various sizes, and there's one of the queens. Based on my estimate, it seemed the colony was about 50 to 70 workers strong. They were already starting to explore the exit port of the container. It's time. Let there be light. I pulled in a bright light to shine into the container, which instantly caused the photophobic ants to perk up and start looking for a suitable dark place to flee to. And it just so happens, we're about to give them that perfect dark place to which they could flee now. Removing the cotton and fixing the portal tube into the hybrid nest opening. It only takes one ant's brilliant idea to relocate to start an entire chain reaction of ants emigrating into our nest, exactly as we wanted them to. In no time, workers began filing in, carrying eggs, larvae, and pupae into the inviting darkness of the hybrid nest. There's something so funny, entertaining, and endearing about watching ants carrying brood into their nest. I'm not sure what it is, but check them out, AC family. Some of them even partner up at lifting the cargo. Now you'll notice that these ants have various sizes of workers. Carpenter ants are polymorphic, which means they have majors with massive heads, specializing in colony jaw force, regular workers, and small minors. And it seems these ants are very well fed. Oh, and there's one of the queens entering the nest. I intend on counting the queens of this colony. From the looks of things, they've been quite busy laying eggs. Inside the container, the ants are busy scrambling to transport all the brood to the new nest location. And there's a lot to take back. These ants here in the foreground, who look like they're lazy and not doing anything, are actually napping. Ants can take hundreds of short minute to 2 minute naps over a 24-hour cycle, and can therefore be available to work around the clock when needed. The ants work effectively. They mustn't leave a single egg behind. Every young ant matters. The ants search every corner and surface thoroughly for eggs, larvae, and pupae. There's still lots of young waiting to be carried to their new home. I allowed the ants to move into their new home overnight. By morning, having transported the entire setup into the ant room, the ants had completely evacuated the container. It was now safe to disconnect their old home from the entire setup. I took the AC plug, disconnected the portal tube, and plugged up the hole. The AC plug's perforated surface will still ensure there is ventilation through this point of the nest. I couldn't wait to look inside. Let's lift the lid, guys. Whoa! Here was one grouping of ants, stationed next to our water reservoir. Wow, I loved watching them! There are 3 queens in this grouping of ants. The soil over this hydrated portion of the nest looked nice and moist, as expected. Moving upwards to the drier portions of the nest, more ants. It was just amazing to see how the ants were using the hybrid nest space. The soils towards the top parts of the nest were driest, as expected. It was good that the nest had a moisture gradient, with wet parts and dry parts, as it gives the ants a chance to hydro-regulate, allowing the ants to station themselves and the brood according to moisture preferences. For instance, I find this colony prefers to keep most of its pupae in the driest portions of the nest, while most of the eggs, larvae, and young pupae were arranged in the more moist spots. Check out that pale-colored newly enclosed worker towards the top. It had recently emerged from its cocoon and was now hardening as a new adult worker ant. The best part about this entire setup was that now we could actually see what the ants were up to inside the nest with 100% clarity. I was able to count a total of 10 queens. Can you believe it? That's a lot of egg layers. And something tells me this colony will grow pretty fast. The clarity and accessibility into the nest is something I haven't been able to enjoy for a while since using terrariums. So I watched the ants for several hours, just doing their thing, transporting brood around. And the lights even caused some of the ants to bring brood out into the tubes. It was cute, but a little light shining over the tube was enough to direct the ants back into the nest. When I had watched them long enough, I decided to place the lid back onto the nest so they could enjoy their first day in their new home in privacy and darkness. For maintenance, all I needed to do was make sure the ants had a fresh supply of water, and every other week, I just needed to fill this hydration tub with water to keep the nest hydrated. Another thing I love about this system is that although it was well ventilated and could breathe, it was also a completely closed system, which means interlopers wanting to get in, like this tiny fly, which probably wants to lay eggs inside the nest to eat the colony's leftovers, cannot enter. The colony still seems full and well fed, so I don't expect the ants to come foraging out into the Outworld anytime soon. You may have noticed some of the workers with gasters completely blown up like a balloon. These workers are called repletes and are living stores for the colony, with social stomachs full of stored food, which would be dispensed as needed over time. This means the ants can completely gorge themselves on food all in one sitting, and then not have to emerge to forage for food for a very long time because of these repletes. But despite that, I still decided to follow through with our AC tradition and place in a piece of freshly killed roach. And several minutes later, some workers indeed came to feed from it, offering accepted. When I do see them foraging this Outworld, it will tell me that the colony is hungry, and that's when I'll place more food in for them. So what do you guys say? What should we name our new Carpenter ant super colony? Leave your name suggestions in the comment section, and I will choose my top 5 favorites for us to vote on in a future video. I look forward to watching this new Carpenter ant colony grow with you guys. And I love that we can see it all now with this new ant setup. In ant keeping, I find it's a never-ending journey of learning and experimentation. Sometimes your ants start off promising and bright, but sometimes the colonies falter for no apparent reason, or at least reasons undetermined. I don't think we'll ever know why our first Carpenter ant colony died. We can only speculate. Meanwhile, I think we'll give the grove to a future ant colony. No need for this hollow bamboo anymore, though. Wait, what? Oh, man. Guys, can you believe it? When I saw them, I couldn't help but laugh. It seems our original colony is still alive and just relocated somewhere else in the terrarium. That's a relief. And look at how full some of the repletes are. It's no wonder they haven't surfaced for food for so long. Anyway, I placed the bamboo back so the colony could continue growing in peace. It seems they like the bamboo. And it looks like they even have brood. Whoops. I don't even know anymore, guys. Guess we now have 2 Carpenter ant colonies. Should we finally name these ones too? Anyway, I will continue to update you guys on all these ant colonies, so hit that subscribe button and bell icon now, so you don't miss out on their continuing ant story, and hit the like button every single time, including now. Just a reminder, guys, if you would like to have an ant farm of your own, like the one in this video, go check out our shop at AntsCanada.com and choose from our various available, easy-to-use, pro ant setups. I totally recommend the all-you-need Campanadas hybrid gear pack. I'll leave a link in the description for that. And if you need ants and didn't manage to catch a queen this year, do check out our Queen Ants for Sale section for live ant sellers in your area. And hey, if you're new to the channel and want to catch up on all your AntsCanada lore, feel free to binge watch this complete storyline playlist here, which traces the origins of all the ant colonies of the ant room, so you can follow their stories and better appreciate how these ant kingdoms came to be and why we love them so much. AC Inner Colony, I have left a hidden cookie for you here if you would just like to watch some extended play footage of our new Carpenter ants living in their new nest. It's so satisfying watching the ants go about their daily lives inside the nest for a change. And before we proceed to the AC question of the week, I'd like to plug my daily vlogging channel. Daily vlogs which have become a full-out bird dad channel, as I am now raising a baby African gray parrot. If you love birds, I'd love for you to meet my new cute little bird. She recently learned to fly, and I think you guys might enjoy her daily antics. And now it's time for the AC question of the week. Last week we asked, what is the name given to the highly protected nest chamber in which the queen and king termites are housed? Congratulations to Imagine Tapsel, who correctly answered the queen cell. Congratulations, Imogen Tapsel, you just won a free ebook handbook from our shop. In this week's AC question of the week, we ask, why is it important for an ant farm to have a moisture gradient? Leave your answer in the comment section and you could also win a free ebook handbook from our shop. Hope you can subscribe to the channel as we upload every Saturday at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Please remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed this video to help us keep making more. It's Ant Love forever.